Hi, we're here with another rendition of Flip Video for you guys. This time around we're going to talk about short-term decision making with special scenarios. We've gotten to the point where we understand the cost, value, and profit analysis. We know how many units we need to sell in order to meet a break-even point or in order to meet a profit goal. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some special scenarios we may and most likely will encounter throughout the life of the business. In general operations. They may not be regular occurrences, but they definitely will be things that we need to know how to go about making financial decisions for. So when talking about this, there's three main categories that we're going to take a look at. The first one is an accept or reject type of situation. You have a proposal made to you. Yes, that is from The Bachelorette. My wife has suckered me into watching that once in a while. But you have a proposal that's been made, and you've got to figure out whether you're going to accept that proposal or reject that proposal based on finances. Remember, all these decisions, you have to keep this in mind, all these decisions are A, short-term decision making, and B, based purely on financial outcome, short-term financial outcome. All right, there are a lot of other things involved, and we'll touch on that. But the end decision here right now is being made on short-term financial outcomes. The next one is make or buy. When we look at products that we sell as a company, are we going to make those things ourselves, or are we going to buy them from somewhere else and then turn around and use them and sell them? And then the third one is keep or drop. If we have a line of products or a line of a product that we're looking at and don't know whether we should continue to make that or whether we should drop that line. If you ask my wife, she's not so much of a finance person, she'll say we'll do both, keep calm and shop till you drop. So that's her answer. We're not going to go that route. So let's focus in on the accept or reject decision making first of all. Again, you've got a proposal that's been made, and what's super key, super important, is that we keep in mind we can only take into account the costs that are relevant and the revenue that's relevant. So there is a ton of cost and a ton of revenue out there that is not relevant. Those are not going to come into play in our decision making, because whether we accept or reject, those costs are still going to be there. Or if it's a revenue we're talking about, whether we accept or reject, those revenues are still going to be there. So girls, if you have a proposal made to you and you're trying to weigh this decision and you look at your future in-laws, right? That could be revenue that you could be buying into, or maybe it's a cost that you could be buying into or accepting into. That is relevant, because if you say yes, then it comes into play. If you say no, then it's out. But your own family, that's not going to be relevant revenue or relevant cost, depending on how you look at your family. But that's not going to be relevant, because whether you accept or reject, you're still stuck with your family. So when we look at it financially, it has to be relevant costs and relevant revenue only. Okay? And that cost or revenue, the only way it can be relevant is if it changes as the decision changes. If you change the decision but the cost doesn't change or the revenue doesn't change, then it's not a relevant cost or a relevant revenue. Okay, so how do we decide whether we accept or not? Well, we just simply take all the relevant revenues, we add them all up. We take all the relevant costs, we add them all up. And if the relevant profit is positive, then it is financially beneficial for us in the short term to accept, if that is positive. If it's a negative relevant profit, then it is financially beneficial for us short term to reject, if it is negative. Okay? The next decision is the make or buy decision. As consumers, when we buy something, we often get more than what we're truly buying. When I go up to the pop machine and I buy a Mountain Dew to get me through the afternoon, I'm getting more than the Mountain Dew, right? I hit the button and out comes the Mountain Dew. But it's more than just the liquid of the Mountain Dew. I don't hit the button and then jam my face under there and wait for the Mountain Dew to just spray in my mouth and then just suck it down as it's spraying out of the machine. The bottle comes out with it, and it's contained in this nice plastic bottle that I can open up and bring with me and take with me and drink at the pace I want to drink it, as opposed to just having it shot all over and having to try to drink it down right away. So when I buy a Mountain Dew at the pop machine, I'm buying more than just the Mountain Dew. Even though I'm really buying the Mountain Dew, I'm getting the bottle that's involved. And a company, PepsiCo, has to decide, are they going to make their own bottles, or are they going to outsource the bottles that they're going to put the product in, which really their end true product there is the Mountain Dew, the liquid itself. But they have to make sure that the customer is happy with everything they get. So what we do there is we just look at the costs in both scenarios. We look at the relevant cost of making it, and then we look at the relevant cost of buying it. And whichever one is less is the one that is short-term, financially more beneficial to us, and that's the one that we're going to end up going with. For the last one, keep or drop, we've got lines of products all over the place. This is kind of a cool one. This is certainly very much so in the news lately, and you know, with Apple, they are constantly deciding whether to keep or drop a certain line of their iProducts. The product that really kind of put them on the map in the last decade. Oh, that's just the half bell, no worries. The company or the product that put them on the map over the last decade, the iPod, the true traditional iPod, right? With the screen up at the top and then the spinny wheel at the bottom half of the product. They're done with that. They've dropped that line. And when they decided to do that, they went through this precise decision-making process. They took a look at what relevant revenue will we lose if we eliminate this line or if we drop this line. And then they say, okay, what relevant costs will we save by eliminating the line? So they add up all the revenue lost, relevant revenue lost, add up all the relevant costs saved, and if the revenue lost is greater than the cost saved, then we keep the line, we keep making the iPod. But once that flips, once we look and say, okay, well, we're losing less revenue than we are saving costs by dropping this, then we drop it. And that's what Apple has decided to do with their iPod line. And they're continuing to do this process and go through this process with the rest of their iProducts as they decide to keep them on until it becomes a different scenario. So let's go ahead and do a couple practice problems here with this. Practice problem 1 is an accept or reject decision-making problem. Chavez Company produces and sells duffel bags that are priced at $60 each. So they sell them at 60 bucks each. They've received a request for a special order of 500 at 48 bucks each. Okay, they have a set of costs here that are given, and they do have the capacity to produce a special order. So I'm going to tell you, go ahead right now, pause this, and try to do this problem on your own. All right, good. Now that you tried it, you hit play. Here we go. We're going to take a look at this and see how you should have come out with it. First of all, we have a new selling price, a new sales price, relevant revenue here of $48. Less the per unit cost, right? The 20 bucks from the direct materials, the 8 bucks from the direct labor, and then the $4 from the unit related overhead. Okay, so that gives us then a contribution margin. Going back to the CVP, gives us a contribution margin of 16 bucks. And we're looking at a quantity of 500 units, right? That's what the offer was. They were offering to buy 500 duffel bags at that price. So we're going to make 16 bucks per duffel bag, selling 500 of them, giving us a total contribution margin of $8,000. We have one batch related cost, which is certainly relevant, that comes into play. That's $2,000, right? Which it says and tells us right here in the problem. One additional production run will be required, costing $2,000. And so after, sorry about that, after we get through that cost, we end up having a profit on the order of $6,000. Positive number, so we're going to go ahead and say that it is financially beneficial for us to accept that special order. Now, are there other things that come into play? Absolutely. So when you go and fill out your response form, there's an extra question on there now that says topic specific question. What I want you to do is I want you to tell me one extra piece. I want you to think beyond this problem, and I want you to put down one extra piece of information that we probably as a business as a whole should consider when making this decision, even though the profit on this order is $6,000. What else might we want to or need to consider when making this decision? All right, next practice problem. Here we're going to take a look at, should we make or buy? Okay, we make hand lotion, and we're also currently making the containers that the hand lotion is put into. So hit pause and work this problem out. Okay, good. Got the problem worked out. Gave you a little bit of a clue here because I've already set up the make and buy categories to work this problem out with. When we look at this problem, here's all of our information up here in terms of costs. What has been offered by a supplier is to provide us all 15,000 containers that we need for $450 per container. So if we do, then we'll be able to use the released space, because we won't have to use it for making the product anymore, for an annual rental fee of $12,000. So should we make, is it financially beneficial short term to make or buy the containers? Here we go. The direct materials, right? We're going to take a look at the costs, the relevant costs involved to make, and then the relevant costs involved to buy. The direct materials involved are $35,000 worth. The direct labor involved is $15,000 worth. The unit-related overhead involved is $5,000 worth. We count that because it is unit-related, so it is specific to the units. The product sustaining overhead, because it is a specific product, so we do have to count that in as a relevant cost, is $6,000. And then we have an opportunity cost. We talked back in Unit 1 or Module 1 about what opportunity cost is, and that is the cost of choosing to do something else. So by choosing to make, we incur the inability to make $12,000 through leasing, right? If we choose to make our own product, then we're choosing to lose out on lost revenue is a cost. So we're choosing to lose out on the lost revenue of $12,000 from leasing out the space. All right, so the total relevant cost to make this is $73,000. Total relevant cost to buy the product is just simply the 15,000 units at $450 a piece, which comes to $67,500. So when we look at these two, which cost is cheaper? Buying. Buying is short-term, financially cheaper. So that's what our decision should be. It is more beneficial, short-term, to buy this product. Now, most of you may be wondering why this cost is not involved. Because either way, if we make the product, we're still going to have to sustain the facility, keep the facility going, keep the facility running. If we buy the product, we're still going to have to keep the facility going because we plan on renting it out, right? So if we buy the product, we're still going to incur this cost here. So either way, this cost is there, which makes it irrelevant. So we can't include that. Okay? In the feedback form, I want you to include in that answer, in the special part answer, I want you to tell me one thing about this problem that we didn't talk about that's not necessarily direct short-term immediate financial impact. One thing about this that you may need to consider when making this decision if we were including other things on top of this short-term direct financial impact. Okay, so that is the lesson for the day. You'll use this to do your problems tomorrow, well, depending on when you watch it, tomorrow or later on today. All right, good luck, and I'll see you in class.